Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Children. Today I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Haydn Boehm, who is the Head of Commercial Marketing for Connected Labs at Merck Life Sciences. And today we're going to be talking about value creation. Haydn, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, well done. You. That's a mouthful there. So you got it. Well done.
Yeah, and I wasn't really reading it off the script either, so it was really good.
No.
And I see you in your nice summer shirt down in Cornwall. I'm glad the sun's shining where you are. It's such shining even here in Surrey today. Um, we're going to be talking about value creation, but before we do that, the last time you and I met was in Chicago in PitCon, where you actually had a global launch for Lenexo. So perhaps you can tell people a little bit about that and how the launch went.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Crikey, that's probably the last time I left the house as well for work. So yeah, I mean, this was our global launch of Lenexo, and that was really geared. Well, I think we met originally at the press conference
We did, yeah.
where we were sort of talking about how inventory management or materials life cycle management within sort of healthcare and pharma, biotech, how actually that has a pretty significant impact on sort of value creation within an organization. We talk about how that can have a significant impact on the utility of resources and how how much you need to sort of put as a resource aspect, your sort of costs associated to production and development and running a business or running a life science business in terms of what the end game is.
Sure.
And also then your capacity to basically deliver therapies faster. So where looking at these sort of materials life cycle management, how that's a necessity, but actually it's been sort of taking a huge amount of sort of a time burden on scientists. So it's taken away from those sort of value creation tasks. So we were sort of really framing the fact that this can not only sort of help reduce the sort of spoilage waste, motion waste, improve the integrity, and then sort of the secondary use of that sort of materials information that needs to be put through for submissions to FDA and other regulatory authorities. So that's sort of where we were launching. For me, I'd say that sort of the pickup and the interest has been really good from customers, because the aspect of having remote working and the fact that you can sort of utilize the digital technology as we sort of moved into this next phase of 2020, where de-densification and re-densification have become a priority, and digital transformation programs have been accelerated as we've got to find a new normal way of working, where the outcome is still not 100% landed. I think there's been a huge amount of interest to look at, right, how could we accelerate our productivity? How could we sort of recoup and do things better where we've had to have a sort of bit of a standing start. So the interest in terms of sort of understanding the technology and implementing the technology has really grown during these very troubling times for from the globe.
Yeah, sure. And Lenexo itself is an app, isn't it, that people can have on their phone so that they can manage their inventory within the laboratory?
Yeah, well, it's a mixture. It's a sort of a hybrid. So you have a software component to it, and then a mobile app, which allows you for that digital data capture on mobile devices in the laboratory. It's sort of point of use. And then you have a web application, which then allows you to sort of manage, in clean room scenarios or remote scenarios where you can sort of plan work, plan your experiments, and then come in and just know exactly where things are. So you don't have that sort of waste of travel, motion waste and the potential to sort of, to overcrowding in labs. So that sort of hybrid has really enabled a lot of customers to meet their new challenges that they face in terms of sort of trying to return to a new normal.
Fantastic. And just to say, if you haven't seen Haydn's fantastic little demo that he did for me at PitCon showing the application of Lenexo, there will be a link to the video on this post as well, so you can check that out later. So moving on, let's talk about value creation then. I know you presented today because I popped into the Pharma IQ Future Laboratory Informatics event. You presented today on that, so perhaps you can tell viewers a little bit more about what you were talking about and how you see the future going.
Yeah, no, so this is a different topic that we've presented on, a different sort of product that we have here. Again, focused around value creation within sort of the life science industries and pharma. and really sort of looking at the sort of the analytical data and scientific data, sort of the outputs of the experimentation, and in terms of how that data is captured in different ways, be it sort of a mixture of digital analog and the fact it's not sort of doesn't have sort of meta data or sort of data about the data associated to it, which has been ongoing for a huge number of years, and we sort of frame it with the fact that there was a PricewaterhouseCoopers commissioned a sort of paper through the European Commission to look at what is that, how's that impacting the industry in terms of having what's called unfair data. So a fair data principle is findable, accessible, interpretable, and reusable.
Right.
Reusable is pretty crucial because it's the reuse of this data that actually has a massive impact in terms of life science businesses. So that analytical data needs to be used if you're going to think about innovative R&D using artificial intelligence. Well, if your data is in a really poor format and it's unusable, and you don't trust the integrity of it, it means that buying these AI softwares, this is really a struggle, because you've got so much energy and time and waste that's sort of associated to getting to that point, so where you are going to now start looking at optimizing and thinking and trying to sort of explore new therapies, to bring more efficacious drugs to the market in a safer way and faster. When you don't have good data, then this is pretty much a pipe dream in many cases, and that's why there are talks out there. This is the fifth dawn of AI. I'd say probably the fourth dawns have all failed because that data was never in a suitable state to really jump onto and leverage that new sort of data intelligence thinking. The value creation also goes into from reg affairs. When you sort of look at the cost of bringing a drug to market, it's 2.6 billion, and the timeline is 10 years. A lot of the impact of the timeline is also you have to submit your data related to the safety and how it performs in patient use and sort of all the aspects that go with that. When your data is in an unsuitable format, it takes ages to get it and pull all that report together. And then you've got to make it in a format that's presentable, that's readable and interpretable from the authorities. And if it's not there, they turn it back. And then you go through the cycle again. Now, all this time is a detraction away, because when you file for the target of their patent on that, you've got a fixed amount of time to get it back out to market. So all the time you're taking in these sort of reg affairs situations, that detracts from as a sort of pharmaceutical, whether you are going to see that return on investment. And if you don't see the return on investment, you get less drugs coming to market, which, bearing in mind, we're all looking to, think, how can we have better lifestyles? How can we see the cures for chronic and curable diseases? So not being able, if we can't get more efficacious, safer drugs through faster, then we as individuals are the ones that lose out on that. So
what is your solution then? So what do you see the solution to this problem?
Yeah, so really this is about we've sort of acquired a company called BSSN just over a year ago, and one of the reasons that has been a key sort of aspect of us to sort of join or acquiring them is the fact that our healthcare division of Merck had implemented their technology in, so they were using this sort of animal data standard, which is an open standard that's human and machine readable. So it's very has a high utility. Also, the fact it's open, so you don't have to pay to use it. So it means that you can share data in your organization, external to your organization. It's all meta tagged, so it allows you to sort of, create structured data lakes and think, well, what's the importance of that? Well, this is the difference between, having a book that's in a warehouse where you've got a list of what's in the warehouse, but no idea where it is, and then walking into a library where you walk to the front desk and they've got all those cards, index cards.
I used to work in the library. I know exactly what it is.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
My white hair's showing my age now.
I won't do any of my library jokes. We'll keep that away. But that's the difference. So you can walk in, and the indexing tells you what aisle, what shelf, how far along the shelf, and that's what sort of meta tagging is, the sort of the analogy to sort of put it into context. So the animal standard allows this. And so with the BSN technology, we provide converters for over 200 instruments and softwares that convert all these individual vendor-specific proprietary standards that don't talk to each other, can't be used in the same way. Convert it and harmonize it into one format. Now you're in a position where you can really utilize that data and share that data. We also provide solutions that you can integrate the instruments to the leading software systems, and then actually you have the leading software command the instruments. And now you've got this real lovely flow of data where
Sure.
you've removed all that wasted human energy would have previously been there in terms of, you know, cleansing the data, preparing the data, getting it ready to submit. So all of that, and again, that's, you know, we sort of think, oh, that doesn't sound like much. Actually, in terms of the industry, that costs the pharmaceutical industry the tune of, you know, about sort of $4.5 billion a year. So it's a pretty significant chunk of change. And so realistically, anything to do with the secondary use of data, the energy to get to that point, you know, it can be detracting, you know, the you know, scientists and problem solving tasks to the tune of 45% of the time, in terms of how we get there. So that's, here we have a solution that really allows people to sort of, you know, integrate current ecosystems that they have, because we've got converters for everything, so nobody has to buy brand new for everything and replace their current stuff. They can use their current ecosystem. This BSN technology really is almost like the spider in it. It connects everything up and enhances everything, so it all works that bit better. And therefore it now moves us away from getting to a point of trying to clean the data and decide whether to actually getting to this top of this sort of pyramid to say, right, well, what are you going to do with this data now? Where does it need to go? Does it need to go in terms of data intelligence? Does it need to be submitted to the FDA or the regulatory authorities? It really moves us into those conversations about then how do we get to that point? Because for a long time, we've never been able to really get there in a very efficient way. So this is where that value creation theme comes in, and where, from a connected lab perspective, what we're trying to achieve for our customers.
And that's really interesting. But obviously, one of the, not concerns, but one of the barriers I'm sure you face is people being reticent to open up their data. And particularly, you mentioned it's an open source software. So, I mean, what's the feedback been from customers and also the market in general to this proposition?
A great question. I mean, and really, when we sort of talk about open data, the customer's data is the customer's data.
Sure.
They own that. You know, and so, you know, and in Merck, Merck Life Science, we have a sort of a customer confidentiality policy that has been put in place from the fact that when Merck acquired Sigma Aldrich and SAFC, you know, there was a conflict of interest to the healthcare business of Merck. So, you know, we've done that, and we've got sort of experience that that's in place, and we had no issues with that whatsoever. So the idea is that the only people from a Merck perspective that would see that data is if anybody was in a third level, you know, tech support function, who really is not interested in what that data is. It's actually about how to fix the problem of getting your data working. So customers own their data.
Yep.
And their open source is great, because actually customers don't have to pay to have a harmonized data format. And it's about then allowing, and they then grant access to who they share their data with.
Sure.
So they have complete control of their data. So hopefully, you know, that alleviates any fears people have about open source. It's about customers own their scientific data. It's for their business. It's their fuel to you know, to generating the next breakthrough in science.
And if this, hopefully, as I'm sure you hope, and I'm sure it will do, gets wider acceptance, what do you see the future for this in terms of development within life science, and maybe further afield as well in other industries?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, you know, really, I think we've got quite a long way to go to get to this sort of harmonized data format, integrated lab format, where that's really built the sort of standards. For me, it's like the building blocks of a pyramid before we get up to that sort of, you know, the secondary use of data and these, you know, value creation opportunities that come with data intelligence. Sure. So I think what we'll see is, as we go over, the, you know, technology advances at a rapid pace of change, and the pragmatism of certain technologies within our life science industry, you know, change all the time as well. So I think, on a near term, I think let's get to that point where we're actually not questioning the data integrity anymore. We're actually confident in that, and then we're making really good scientific predictions based upon that. And I think that we'll sort of know a little bit more where that comes from. But really, I think that it's really looking at where are the next areas that the healthcare industry, the life science industry looks at itself and says, right, what are we asking really talented problem-solving humans to do today that, although essential, is not a value-added task or a value creation task. So I mean, I think we looked at that from a material life cycle management and a sort of scientific data management or data governance perspective is the two sort of areas we're looking at the moment. And I think you could look at other areas about, right, what takes humans a long time, but actually is there a way of doing something where they work with a technology in partnership with them? Because also another interesting fact is that data intelligence, artificial, is frighteningly clever, but at the same time ridiculously stupid. So and the error rate between just a human and just an AI is actually quite comparable. But if you put them together, it actually reduces down significantly to close to zero. So you do need that sort of cohesive sort of work towards it to sort of optimize processes.
Right. Okay. Well, look, I know you have to go, so I won't keep you much longer. What I would say is that I understand that you're also doing another presentation on this very subject at another conference,
Yeah,
which is coming up in the not soon, which I am also attending as well,
there you
thankfully,
go.
which is the Oxford Global Conferences event on Pharma Tech, which is,
That's
I think,
right.
next week. So you'll be speaking there.
Yeah,
Great. So if people would like to listen to Haydn present on value creation and other topics, I'm sure, and if you've got any questions following this, actually, then you can actually register for that. It's actually free if you do it by Thursday. So I'm going to put the link so you can take advantage of that. Or if you can't attend that and you've got some questions for Haydn, you can leave some comments below the videos. I'm sure Haydn will be happy to answer them. But it's
absolutely.
actually a very huge topic and a very interesting topic. I mean, it's always interesting when you start looking at new technology and new innovation, because it's always about who gets in first, but then who can take other people with them so they can be the last man standing in some respects. So they become the standard, isn't it, really? Like the old VHS Betamax or whatever it is that you want to do, is trying to get that
Yeah,
buy-in. And actually what's interesting, I think, through the whole lockdown and COVID has created greater collaboration. So hopefully we're seeing greater collaboration between organizations and companies and different parts of life sciences. So hopefully this will lead to more collaboration as well on that front as well.
absolutely.
Great.
Brilliant.
Well, Hayden, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Enjoy the sun down in Cornwall. I've got a few other things to myself. So all I say to everybody is, as always, thank you very much for watching. Stay well, stay safe. And until next time, well, keep yourself healthy. Take care.